August 5th, 1716. Dawn breaks over the fortress of Petrovaradin. 150,000 Ottoman soldiers stretch across the plains below, the largest invasion force the Balkans has seen in decades. Their banners darken the horizon. Their artillery train extends for miles. Grand Vizier Damat Ali Pasha commands an army that has crushed Christian resistance for generations, an unstoppable wave that has brought empires to their knees. He expects the fortress to surrender within days. He expects minimal resistance. He expects glory. Instead, at precisely 9 in the morning, Austrian Prince Eugene of Savoy launches a counteroffensive with 40,000 men. What follows is not a siege. It is a systematic annihilation. This was the Battle of Petrovaradin. To understand Petrovaradin, you must first understand one simple question. When does numerical superiority stop being an advantage and become a vulnerability? The answer lies in the catastrophic miscalculation of August 5th, 1716. Petrovaradin sits on the southern bank of the Danube River in what is now northern Serbia. The fortress perches on volcanic rock, its walls built into the cliff face itself. Below stretches the Pannonian Plain, flat, open terrain perfect for cavalry maneuvers and the deployment of massive armies. In 1716, this location represents the contested frontier between two empires locked in generational struggle. The Ottoman Empire believes the Balkans belong under Islamic rule. For 3 centuries, Ottoman armies have pushed into Europe, conquering kingdoms, absorbing territories, spreading their administrative system across southeastern Europe. Constantinople views these lands as rightfully theirs, won by conquest, maintained by power. The Sultan's armies have taken Vienna's gates before. They see Christian resistance not as legitimate defense, but as rebellion against the natural order. The Habsburg Empire believes these are Christian lands that must be defended. Vienna sees itself as the bulwark of Christendom, the shield against Islamic expansion. Emperor Charles VI views every fortress, every mile of territory, every stronghold as essential to preventing Ottoman armies from reaching the heart of Europe. The Habsburgs understand that losing the Danube frontier means losing everything beyond it. Neither side can compromise. The Ottomans cannot accept a permanent Christian presence blocking their expansion. The Habsburgs cannot accept Ottoman control of the river that feeds their empire. Every peace treaty is temporary. Every calm is preparation for the next war. By 1716, the pressures become unbearable. A new Sultan, Ahmed III, seeks to restore Ottoman prestige after previous defeats. His Grand Vizier, Damat Ali Pasha, assembles the largest army the empire can mobilize. The objective is simple: recapture lost territory, break Habsburg power in the Balkans, restore the empire's aura of invincibility. The Ottomans believe overwhelming force will achieve what diplomacy cannot. In May 1716, the invasion begins. 150,000 soldiers march north. The army includes elite Janissaries, Serbian and Wallachian auxiliaries, Tatar cavalry, and the finest artillery the empire possesses. They cross into Habsburg territory with confidence born from centuries of victory. Their target is Petrovaradin, the fortress that controls access to the entire Danube basin. The defenders know what approaches. Prince Eugene of Savoy, commander of Habsburg forces, understands the mathematics of the situation. He commands approximately 80,000 men total, scattered across multiple garrisons. He cannot match Ottoman numbers in open battle. He cannot defend every position simultaneously. But Eugene is not a conventional commander. He has studied Ottoman tactics for 2 decades. He knows their strengths, and he knows their fatal weakness, the assumption that superior numbers guarantee victory. Damat Ali Pasha prepares his army with meticulous care. His supply train stretches for miles. His artillery includes 164 heavy cannon. His cavalry wings number in the tens of thousands. He positions his forces south of Petrovaradin, preparing for a formal siege. He expects to isolate the fortress, bombard its walls into submission, and accept the garrison's surrender within weeks. He does not expect a battle. He expects capitulation through intimidation. Prince Eugene makes a different calculation. He knows he cannot win a prolonged siege. Ottoman artillery would eventually breach Petrovaradin's walls. Ottoman numbers would eventually overwhelm any static defense. But Eugene recognizes something Damat Ali Pasha does not. That massive armies have massive vulnerabilities. They require constant supply. They move slowly. They communicate poorly across vast distances. Most critically, they assume their size protects them from attack. Eugene strips every available garrison between Petrovaradin and Vienna. He marches 70,000 men directly toward the Ottoman position, leaving other fortresses dangerously undermanned. This is a calculated gamble. If he loses at Petrovaradin, every Habsburg position in the Balkans becomes indefensible. But Eugene knows he cannot wait. He knows that surprising a massive army before it fully deploys is his only advantage. The Austrians arrive at Petrovaradin on August 2nd. Eugene does not fortify. He does not wait. He studies the terrain, positions his forces, and plans not a defense but an attack. He knows the Ottomans cannot believe he would assault their superior numbers. He knows their confidence blinds them to danger. And that quiet decision leads directly to the Battle of Petrovaradin. The Ottoman army sprawls across the plain in traditional formation. The center holds the Janissary Corps, professional infantry whose discipline has broken countless Christian armies. On the flanks, cavalry wings extend for miles, ready to envelop any enemy foolish enough to approach. Behind the lines, artillery positions prepare for siege bombardment. Supply wagons stretch back toward the horizon. Damat Ali Pasha surveys his forces with satisfaction. Everything proceeds according to expectation. The fortress sits isolated. Habsburg relief seems impossible. The Grand Vizier sees Eugene's arrival not as threat, but as opportunity. If the Austrian commander wishes to sacrifice his army in open battle, Ottoman superiority will crush him decisively. The terrain favors traditional deployment. The plains allow full cavalry maneuvers. The flat ground provides clear artillery fields of fire. Ottoman commanders position their forces expecting conventional engagement. Center anchored by infantry. Flanks securing the field, reserves prepared to exploit any breakthrough. They see space as advantage, numbers as security. On the night of August 4th, Ottoman scouts report Austrian movements. The reports describe repositioning, not retreat. Damat Ali Pasha interprets this as desperation. He believes Eugene understands the impossibility of his situation and attempts futile maneuvering. The Grand Vizier does not see the terrain Eugene studies. He does not recognize the positions Eugene quietly occupies. He sees difficulty, not danger. Eugene divides his forces into 4 coordinated columns. Each knows its objective. Each understands its timing. Each moves into position under darkness. The right wing, commanded by Count Palfi, positions itself on elevated ground northeast of the Ottoman left flank. These forces include cavalry and mobile artillery. Their role is surgical. Strike the Ottoman flank at the battle's opening, disrupting their cavalry deployment before it can maneuver. The center, under Eugene's direct command, masses opposite the Janissary Corps. This is not a defensive position. Eugene concentrates his best infantry for a direct assault on the Ottoman center. He knows that breaking the Janissaries breaks Ottoman morale. The left wing, led by Prince Alexander of Württemberg, positions south of the fortress itself, targeting the Ottoman right flank and their artillery positions. These forces carry specific orders: silence Ottoman guns before they can devastate Austrian formations. The reserve, commanded by General Mercy, waits behind the center with instructions to exploit whichever part of the Ottoman line breaks first. Eugene's plan requires perfect timing. The flanks must strike simultaneously, preventing Ottoman cavalry from reinforcing the center. The center must advance only after flank attacks create confusion. Every element depends on coordination, not strength. Above them, Petrovaradin's garrison prepares to support the attack with artillery fire once battle begins. They know that once Ottoman forces commit to engagement with Austrian columns, their massive numbers become compressed, unable to maneuver or withdraw effectively. August 5th, 1716, 9 in the morning. The Ottoman army stands in traditional formation. Janissaries hold the center. Cavalry extends on both flanks. Artillery prepares for bombardment. From Damat Ali Pasha's position, the situation appears manageable. Austrian forces appear smaller than expected. Their advance seems reckless. The Ottomans see Austrian columns approaching. They see infantry formations marching steadily forward. They see cavalry positioning on the flanks. Only then does the attack begin. Count Palfi's cavalry slams into the Ottoman left flank at full gallop. Not probing attacks, not skirmishing. A concentrated charge targeting the junction between Ottoman cavalry and infantry. The impact tears through unprepared positions. Ottoman cavalry, expecting to maneuver freely across open plains, finds itself engaged before deployment completes. Horses collide. Formations compress. The flank meant to envelop Austrian forces instead fights desperately to maintain its own position. Simultaneously, Prince Alexander's left wing strikes the Ottoman right. Mobile artillery opens fire at close range into Ottoman gun positions. Infantry rushes forward before Ottoman gunners can respond. The artillery train, 164 heavy cannon positioned for siege, becomes a liability. Crews cannot turn their guns quickly enough. Infantry cannot defend positions designed for bombardment, not combat. Both flanks erupt into chaos within minutes. The Ottomans expected time to organize. They expected space to maneuver. They expected conventional engagement. Instead, coordinated Austrian attacks hit them before their superior numbers could deploy effectively. In the center, Damat Ali Pasha realizes the situation deteriorates rapidly. His flanks engage desperately. His artillery falls silent. But the Janissary Corps remains intact. If the center holds, the army can reorganize. Ottoman numbers still guarantee eventual victory if they maintain formation. Eugene orders the center forward. 20,000 Austrian infantry march directly toward 60,000 Ottoman troops. This should be suicide. Ottoman commanders see the advance and prepare to annihilate it. Janissaries form firing lines. Supporting units move forward. The trap seems obvious. Austrian desperation walking into Ottoman strength. But Eugene times the advance perfectly. As Austrian infantry approaches, Petrovaradin's fortress artillery opens fire, not at Austrian forces, at the massed Ottoman center. Heavy guns positioned on elevated rock fire directly into the densest Ottoman formations. Cannonballs rip through packed ranks. The Janissaries cannot return fire against fortress walls. They cannot advance without exposing themselves to continued bombardment. They cannot withdraw without acknowledging defeat. Austrian infantry hits the Janissary line while Ottoman forces reel from artillery fire. The fighting becomes brutal. Janissaries are elite soldiers. They do not break easily, but they fight on two fronts. Austrian infantry before them, fortress artillery above them. Each cannonball creates gaps in their formation. Each gap becomes an Austrian breakthrough point. On the Ottoman left, Palfi's cavalry completes its destruction of Ottoman horse. Without cavalry support, Ottoman infantry on that flank stands isolated. Austrian forces wheel inward, rolling up the flank from the outside. Ottoman soldiers try to form defensive squares. There is no room. The plain that seemed to offer endless space becomes compressed killing ground. They attempt to withdraw toward the center. They collide with other units also retreating. Formation dissolves into confused mass. On the Ottoman right, the artillery positions collapse entirely. Prince Alexander's forces capture gun after gun. Ottoman crews flee. Infantry attempts counterattacks to retake the artillery. These attacks lack coordination. Small groups charge without support. Austrian defensive fire cuts them down. The right flank disintegrates. In the center, the Janissary line cracks. Not everywhere, not immediately, but enough. Austrian troops penetrate at multiple points. Each penetration widens. Our Janissary units become isolated from each other. Some fight with desperate courage. Others recognize the impossibility and begin withdrawing. There is no organized fallback position. Behind the Janissaries, other Ottoman units see elite troops retreating, and panic spreads. Damat Ali Pasha attempts to restore order. He sends reserves forward, but reserves cannot reach the fighting through the mass of troops already engaged. Units jam together. Commands cannot travel across the confusion. What was meant to be numerical advantage becomes catastrophic density. Men suffocate in the press of bodies. Cavalry cannot charge through their own infantry. Artillery cannot fire without hitting Ottoman forces. The moment of collapse comes not from a single blow, but from cascading failure. The flanks retreat. The center breaks in places. Units lose contact with each other. Ottoman soldiers see friendly forces fleeing and conclude the battle is lost. Individual courage becomes irrelevant. The army fragments. General Mercy leads the Austrian reserve forward into the widening gap in the Ottoman center. This is not mopping up. This is exploitation. Fresh troops pour through broken formations. The Ottoman army does not retreat in order. It runs. By early afternoon, organized Ottoman resistance ceases. What remains is flight. Soldiers abandon weapons, armor, supplies, anything that slows them. The retreat toward the south becomes a rout. Cavalry meant to cover withdrawal instead flees first. Infantry struggles through terrain on foot. Thousands die not in combat but in panic. Trampled, drowned attempting to cross rivers, killed by their own forces in the chaos. The battlefield tells the story. 164 Ottoman cannons sit abandoned. Thousands of muskets, swords, and banners litter the ground. Supply wagons burn. The dead number between 6,000 and 30,000 Ottomans, depending on which accounts one believes. Austrian losses total fewer than 3,000. Prince Eugene does not pursue. His forces remain on the field, consolidating victory, collecting captured equipment. The Austrians fought to break an invasion, not conquer territory. Their objective has already been achieved. The silence after battle carries its own weight. Hours earlier, 150,000 men filled this plain with noise and movement and confidence. Now, emptiness. The fortress of Petrovaradin stands intact. The Danube remains in Habsburg hands. The largest Ottoman invasion in decades, lies shattered across miles of bloodied ground. News of Petrovaradin spreads across Europe within weeks. The reports seem impossible. An outnumbered army crushes a force nearly 4 times its size in a single day of fighting. Military theorists study the battle obsessively. What Eugene achieved contradicts conventional wisdom about warfare. Numbers should matter. Overwhelming force should prevail. Yet, careful planning, tactical coordination, and understanding enemy psychology proved more valuable than raw strength. For the Ottoman Empire, Petrovaradin represents catastrophe. Not just military defeat, but the shattering of invincibility. The empire that threatened Vienna itself cannot overcome a smaller Austrian force in open battle. The loss undermines Ottoman prestige across Europe and within the empire's own territories. Damat Ali Pasha survives, but his career ends. The invasion he promised would restore Ottoman dominance instead demonstrates Habsburg superiority. For the Habsburg Empire, the outcome transforms strategic reality. Eugene's victory secures the Danube frontier permanently. The Treaty of Passarowitz in 1718 confirms massive territorial gains. Austria acquires Belgrade, northern Serbia, and parts of Wallachia. The empire that struggled to survive Ottoman pressure now dictates terms. Eugene becomes the most celebrated military commander in Europe, the general who proved that intelligence defeats numbers. The battle changes European military thinking fundamentally. Commanders study Eugene's tactics, the coordinated flank attacks, on the timing of the center advance, the use of fortress artillery as offensive weapon, the exploitation of enemy overconfidence. Petrovaradin demonstrates that modern warfare requires more than assembling large armies. It requires understanding terrain, timing, psychology, and the vulnerabilities that size creates. The long-term consequences extend beyond immediate territorial changes. Petrovaradin marks the beginning of sustained Ottoman decline in Europe. Never again does the empire mount comparable invasions. Never again do Habsburg forces face existential threat from the south. The balance of power shifts permanently. The fortress on the Danube becomes symbol of the moment Islam's expansion into Europe ended. The plains south of Petrovaradin return to silence. Farmers reclaim the fields. The fortress continues its watch over the Danube. Physical evidence of the battle fades, but Petrovaradin is remembered not for the blood spilled or territory gained, but for what it proves. That careful planning defeats overwhelming force, that understanding the enemy matters more than matching their numbers, and that the greatest vulnerability of massive power is the assumption that size guarantees success. Eugene did not win through superior soldiers or better equipment. He won through recognizing that 150,000 men become a liability when they cannot deploy, cannot maneuver, cannot communicate effectively. He won by making Ottoman strength into Ottoman weakness. The battle teaches that numerical superiority means nothing without the space to use it, the organization to coordinate it, and the humility to recognize when it becomes a trap. Damat Ali Pasha believed his army too large to defeat. That belief killed thousands and ended an empire's expansion. Petrovaradin is not the story of inevitable Austrian victory or Ottoman decline. It is the story of how assumptions kill, how intelligence defeats strength, and how the careful preparation of 40,000 defeats the confident advance of 150,000. And that is why it still matters.